Heidi Cohen of the Actionable Marketing Guide, and I am thrilled to be part of Content Strategy Collective. And I'm here today to talk about whether or not you are losing money because your content can't be heard. And if you're wondering, who cares whether or not my content can be heard? I'm here to say your prospects, your customers, and their end users care a lot. So let's look at how your customers have changed in the past 15 to 18 months. And they have. We all have. Because in the last 15 to 18 months, our work and personal lives have gotten like this. They're integrated. They go together. And there are three ways that they have changed. And most of these are seen as from a human consumer perspective, but make no mistake, your marketing is ultimately going not B2B, but human to human. So what are those three changes? First of all, people have become digitally and device savvy across the board. It is no longer the teens and the 20-somethings who you have to reach with a smartphone or other kind of device. It is everyone, regardless of what they're doing for work, what their personal life is, where they live, what their background is. And this is really important because this is where they're looking for their first interaction and even all of their interactions. Secondly, people's lives and lifestyles have changed. There's no longer really a confined space that is work. Or work is not a place I leave my home and necessarily go to. As a result, you have work from home and where work and personal lives are integrated. They bleed into one another, right? Who hasn't been on a Zoom call in the past year that didn't have some children running in the middle of a meeting? But what does that mean for your business? Really important things. Since you've got a lot of people who may be working from home or women who have like 20 to 25% of women have left the job force, these people are using their own phone. It's one phone. It's the same phone that I use for personal, I use for work. It may not be the same address. The people you need to address for your market may not be the same. And this is key. So it means that the data you already have may not be the data on your customer base that you need now. And thirdly, trust has eroded. Due to political and social changes can color how people view things. It may color how different companies view things, but it also goes broader than that. And from a business perspective, what is really key is consumer data. It's not just consumers, it's businesses. People wonder, what's going to happen to my data privacy and how secure it is? And it's not about you. It happens everywhere. There's always a news out there that talks about tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of information that have been breached, or a company that has been breached, such as the pipeline on the East Coast that caused people to have a run on gas. So what does this mean for your B2B business? It means that your consumers have changed and they want to interact with you digitally and through voice. And the biggest places this has been seen are both of them are voice-based. Okay, the biggest changes are in people wanting to do some kind of video call, regardless of what the platform is. That has increased 41%. And this has great implications for your business because you can be more flexible. You don't have to work around transportation guides, getting a salesman someplace. They can be there in very short order and actually provide a voice and a face for your business. And also, it happens in terms of chat. At its core, chat is a form of voice communication. It's just often, we're so used to seeing it when it first came out as text and talking to a little square on, communicating with a little square on our computers, that we never realized that this was voice functionality. But there's a company called Speak to Web that makes that a functionality, something that you can add to your site, and it connects with any of your other MarTech stack. And this happens not just at any one specific point or one job. These days, the buying process is much broader. It goes with starting to connect with your potential buyers before they're ever in market, because you want to build an audience. It's being there, ready and findable when they have a specific question or realize that they have a want or need that they have to fulfill with your products. It's there when they have to kind of confirm, or somebody else that they work with want more information or different kinds of information about your products through the sale, which can happen 100% digitally or some mix. And lastly, it is what happens in terms of onboarding, which to me is a really critical piece of this pie, and therefore it means that, because, and why do I think it's critical? I think that onboarding is critical because this is where the loyalty loop is won or lost. You have a period of 90 to 100 days to get the end user to use your product. Otherwise, that purchase, no good. And here's where voice can be a really big help to your business. Why? Because end users and buyers may not be the same people, but at its core, you can use a combination of training that can be on demand. It can use video, and video without any images is audio. It can also have it so people break in different places with the right metadata around it so they can get the help they need. And you can actually provide a chatbot or something or other functionality that will get that customer to the person they need to get the answer, to get them on board and using your product. Because the faster they use your product, the more likely they are to become loyal customers, and they will cost you less. Your biggest investment is actually everything that happens up until the point of repurchase. And again, once you've got them and they're using the product, you have a dialogue and you have a relationship which enables you to continue and make it easier, and you then lock out other potential companies. And you're going to say to me, Heidi, who's going to do a whole deal online without ever seeing anyone? And the reality is, lots of people. Here's research from McKinsey that shows that anywhere from $50,000 to over $1 million can be bought B2B digitally. That means either through an entirely digital process or a combination of digital and video. Want an example? Last year, MasterCard, the credit card company or payment company, as they'd like to be known now, partnered with SoundHound. SoundHound is a white label company that provides voice functionality. And it's great. Why? Because it allows the customer, in this case, MasterCard, to be able to keep the information about their customers and to protect it and not give it to a third party. And they did this deal in 2020. Why? Because fast food restaurants needed to be able to do hands-free or screen-based transactions for safety. So you can do this type of thing as well, and it will work. So going back, and you say, Heidi, where did this come from? I just want to say that this trend is not new. It has been around since 2019. At that point, Gartner said that the B2B purchase cycle was gone. It was a matter of 6 functions across the board, from problem identification to reaching consensus. And that's a big deal. The consensus is a big deal because you have a team of anywhere from 6 to 10 people, all with different views, all with different needs. So no more calling Mr. Big and saying, uh-oh, I need to get my quota, can you help me? But what was the really interesting part of this data from my perspective is that the red was in-person calls and the blue is digital. And what was important is that at they were very similar levels, so that people were using both marketing and sales. I believe if this data was redone today, you would find that that red was some form of video conferencing. And why? What does this say? That people use a variety of different channels. They need a number of different pieces of content. But what is key is that that content has to be tailored to the person whom you're talking to at that specific time. And this underscores another trend that was happening in 2019. I call it the seismic shift in content marketing, and it consists of three factors. One is voice first. In 2019, voice assistants started to go into the broader market. It got beyond the geek you know next door who's got everything connected and has to have the newest device. This was big because even though they refer to voice assistants, there were actually many more forms of voice that were out in the wild. Most notably, cell phones or smartphones, because people started talking to their phone, saying, where is a business near me? What is this piece of information? And that is key because it transformed from just having a number of words that I type in to being full sentences. Secondly, marketing AI. Businesses realized that they needed marketing AI. This means that technology had evolved to a place where it could use more information. And by that, it's not, before you think, oh my God, this is really confusing, it refers to the fact that machines can have a data set, you can train them, and then the machine keeps getting smarter on its own, so that you need data. Ideally, you need data across your organization, which backs up Peter Drucker's idea that marketing should be integrated across your entire organization. But anybody who's worked for a business that's more than 3 to 5 years old knows that at some place you have a legacy or dinosaur system in some cases, and your data from one area to another you may not be able to see it. Your marketing data may only be in one place. So what does this mean? It doesn't mean you pack up your bags and go home. You can now use, because of this acceleration in technology over the last 15 to 18 months, you have services that will help you by providing external data that gives you information about the people who come to your site. And then using that and partnering with those companies, you can get that information. And the good news is that this technology keeps getting less and less expensive. And lastly, there was content saturation. We've all known that and talked about content saturation as an ideal out there. And as marketers, we want to think our content is so great, everybody's going to want to come and read it. But the reality is they're getting bombarded with lots of different messages from a wide range of people, wide range of noise. And therefore, you're not just competing against other people out there or competitors. You're competing against their family, their peers, their bosses. And you need to make this work in a way that people can find your information and want that first. So here's how content leads to buyer success. And here's the key here, is that your content comes in because you have this new intelligence around your content. You can make it relevant, easy to use, and credible. You can provide personalization that is not just Dear Heidi or Dear Marketer. And therefore, you target the needs of each person who comes in. It's like having Netflix that creates a unified experience for each of its users that may not be the same, but it answers the questions that they need. And here's the key. Because there's so many more people using this content, it needs to be shareable and channel and device agnostic so that they can get it wherever and however they want. So why are you going to add voice to your content marketing? 3 very important reasons. One is that you have to understand that voice carries a lot of information. Just by taking somebody's voice, you learn a lot about a lot of demographic information, a lot about other factors across age, race, locality, and other information. But most importantly, you also gain emotional data. This is part of why you need to have AI involved. 2, you expand your market, which is great because it becomes more inclusive. For example, you can reach people with ADA challenges, notably people who are low vision, so that they need to talk to an interface because they can't figure out where your buttons are, or people with low, some kind of hearing impairment, which goes to the fact that hearables are also a form of voice devices, and they are incredible because not only do people hear you now, it adds additional biometrics because of where they are. They are in your ears, and they take better responses than if you have even a wristband on. And it changes the dynamic where and when people can consume your content. Think about it. 10% of people in 2019 had a voice assistant in their bathroom. And we're not talking about toilet time here. We're talking about the fact that people spend time getting ready, showering, preparing for their day. They are using that device to help them organize their day. This is a great place to get your information in. And for those of you who think that it's hard to get, oh my God, I need voice content, both Amazon Alexa and Google Assistant make it easy. You can take the content you already exist and transform it so they can promote it. It can be a briefing or a skill on Alexa, and you can then reach people when and where they want to get you, not when you want to get them. And lastly, it improves the customer experience and product experience. Your product no longer is just one time. Think about it. Computers, Microsoft has had it every single time you open up your computer, you have the sound. So this takes your customer across and extends beyond your lifetime. But here's the thing. No, you're not just going to take voice and add it because I think it's a good idea. You want to do this because your customers think it's a good idea. And here's the thing. They want to talk to you. They want you to be there. Now, the change is they don't want you to be there when you want to be there. They want you to be there on their terms. And it happens across a variety of different functions related to the buying cycle. So they could be early when they're first thinking about it. They have a question. They might want to reach you on a chatbot or schedule time to see you. They're doing research. They need more information or a specific question that their boss or team member has asked them. They want to talk to you to complete their purchase. They already have it, but they want to see your face. And as I said before, that can be a face on a video, and it can do big purchase items. And lastly, and I think that to me this is the key here, is they want to hear from you post-purchase. And I think this is a really big deal because when it comes to post-purchase, the loyalty loop, you can get that sale. You've invested a lot of money in acquiring that customer. But the loyalty loop is won and lost on onboarding. And you've got 90 to 100 days to get that customer and have them use your product. So what do? Here's where voice is critical. And voice applies across a variety of different products. So let's look at those and then continue this conversation. So here's what voice shipments are, how they are exploding, right? For every 100 smartphones, there are roughly 50% as many smart speakers. Okay, but that, it's additive. I have a smartphone is already a smart device that takes voice and audio. Each of these other products, whether it's a computer, a tablet, it's a wearable, it's a hearable, there are all kinds of things that make your home and your car and your office and any other environment a voice-enabled environment. And what can you do? Before you say, hands up, Heidi, I'm not redesigning my site, I'm not doing all of these things. There are a couple of ways that you can do something right now to make it work. And let's among those are, because voice is inclusive, it touches every part of your brand. So what do you want to do? You want to make sure that you are visible and you get heard. It can be as easy as putting a widget on your website that allows somebody to leave you a voice message. That's simple, right? Not that expensive to do. Alternatively, you can take Amazon Alexa or Google Assistant, provide functionality that make it easy for you to transform your content into audio content that is available on their device. Unfortunately, information does not go from one ecosystem to the other. That said, it's relatively easy, and both Amazon and Google have announced that they are integrating voice in ways that can be used by your business. At the recent major Google meeting, they announced that they were integrating Google Meetings into Google Drive. That means that you now can all meet in real time in a virtual environment. Similarly, Amazon has Amazon for Business, where they help your business be able to provide directly to some of your companies. It may not be how you want to do it. It does require understanding that whether you want to have you want to own your business and your information, or you're willing to work along one of these other product lines where they may have access to the data. But here's the thing. Every part of your business involves sonic branding. And I bring this up because it's a way of extending what you do in terms of your brand. Your brand is heard now. It's not just heard in a commercial. It's heard across the board. And sound is one of the great parts of it, is that it makes your brand seamless because it involves voice, ambient noise, and music. And it allows you to bring your customer in and have it be recognized, right? Think about in France, the train station, everyone knows that there's a certain sound in a woman's voice, and everyone stops to listen to it because they know that they need that information. You can do the same thing for your product. Lots of companies are integrating voice and sound across the entire piece, right? Things that you may not even have thought about. Not just the few beats that you have on your podcast, but the music, let's say, that you use to introduce your webinar or other factors or your live events. These things are all part of your sonic brand. So let's see how voice achieves your B2B marketing goals. And it's as easy as ABC. A refers to your audience. These are the people who either are in market for your product, they may be current customers, they may be end users. And here's the thing, this means you've got to rethink your marketing persona, because those people, how they look at voice, because it adds so much more information, may be different. The question is, how do they want to hear you? What kind of sounds are they looking for? What do you need to be able to break through? Who do they expect to be listening to them, talking to them? And this matters because you've got to think across your entire sales force and your call centers. So what does voice and where does your brand stand? And one of the key places that this has made the biggest difference in 2020 was in call centers, because people wound up using these phones, right? People were using their own personal phones. They had no way of getting in touch with businesses. You need to make sure that your sounds are consistent and you get people to where they need to get to as fast as possible. You don't want someone sitting there going, agent, human, representative. But you want to have a good brand experience. And where your voice makes the biggest difference is in terms of context. What is the context of your voice? And that is what has changed. Google dubbed this micro moments because it brings together the immediacy, the intent, and the context. Where, what, and how does your customer want to use your sound? And here's what it looks like when we put it together in a chart. you're really going for that sweet spot at the center where your brand comes together with your audience's needs in a context of voice so you can speak to them. And how does this work for your content? Very simply. Here's the easy part, and this is the thing. Most people think, oh my God, I got to add voice. It's really complicated. It's not. Let's start. Listen on demand. This is where your audience is looking for either audio or voice content. Simple. Transform what you already have so that it can be reached across a wide range of devices, and you want to make sure that your brand is consistently portrayed across all of those different factors. One of the great things you can do is just even read your articles. One of the advantages to this is that it increases time on site, a very important metric. Next, people ask a simple question. This is a large area of, still an area of frustration with lots of voice devices, because you might have to answer the question. And this goes to how voice varies in terms of what's expected and how people talk and differences in conversation. But you want your content to show up. The most important place is that it's now a full sentence that your device has to transform into key factors. It needs to answer near me devices, searches, and provide what I call FAQ content. Those the content that answers their specific question. This is one place where I think that everyone here can make great inroads, because if you take your FAQ content and spread it out so that there are different, it looks like a library, and you make sure that it can be used in a variety of formats, whether it is text, video, or audio, it helps people to be able to use it when and where they are. Think about it. For many people, audio is an additive activity. They are dual consumption at the same time. And lastly, is interactive with some kind of device. This is where people are expecting to participate in a scripted conversation. Most obvious places you're already using are IVRs, or your call center, as well as chatbots. The question here is, the challenge here is that what someone thinks are going to be the answers may not be the answer or the way they expect it to be done. This requires a lot of research to get it done well. What can you do to make it easier? You can make sure that you use different numbers to get people to different parts of your organization faster. You can actually work with conversational AI and people who work on voice user experience to see how well it's going. But at the end of the day, it means that you can actually transform and become voice first without having a large investment. I want to thank you for your time. #YouRock.